Hello, and welcome back to Ashley Main Makes. Today, we are out in my dirty kitchen to conduct a bit of an experiment. I love wearing rayon. It's one of my favorite fabrics. It is light and airy and fluid, and the drape is beautiful, but it is because of that slippery nature and the drape of it and how fine it is, it makes it an absolute pain to sew. So I have been playing around with trying to make it a bit easier to work with. Recently, I fell down the rabbit hole of a whole bunch of quilting forums that use rayon. Obviously, they, as quilters, need to make it very easy to sew because they're cutting very small pieces that need to be sewn very precisely back together. They've already tried to solve this problem. So I thought I would give it a go with rayon apparel fabrics and see if this helped me out in my next sort of fine dressmaking project. So I've already played around a little bit. So first I'll show you as a control, for control purposes. This is what a rayon challis looks like. It has a beautiful, lovely drape. It is very thin. It is very slippery. It is quite soft. It's got like a matte texture to it. And this is already after it has been washed. So it's very important to wash and dry fully your rayons because they do tend to shrink quite a bit, especially in the length. And so you want to get that out of the way before you even start this process. That's why you don't want to rely on the initial sizing that the rayon comes with. When you get rayon, it'll often seem a lot stiffer, a lot smoother, and that they apply during the manufacturing process to make it easier for them because of the same reasons. But once you wash it, all of that comes out. But if you don't do that, then if you go to cut out your pattern and then you throw your lovely dress in the wash, you are going to have issues because it'll probably shrink. So, wash and dried from my stash. This was my first experiment with starch. So this was my first option with the Sta-Flo. And I turned lovely rayon challis into cardboard. I'm just gonna hold this up to the mic so you can hear. It is rather horrendous. I think I went a step too far. Obviously, this is easier to work with, but I almost went in the opposite direction. It has some like almost crispy bits here from where it dried. So this was experiment one. And so I put this in to 1 part Sta-Flo, 1 part water, and I put it in dry. And then I hung it. And so what that created was basically sections where you have like ultra crispiness along the edges here. And just like, this is too much, obviously. Like, I don't need it to be this stiff. This is gonna be difficult for me to do the gathers that are on the dress that I'm planning on making. So experiment one, far too much. So the pieces that I'm going to be playing with today, I have a rayon crepe that has been washed and dried. I love crepes because they tend not to wrinkle because they sort of have an inherent wrinkling. They don't tend to wrinkle as badly. And you still get that lovely rayon quality. It's nice in the summertime. So this is going to be my first test piece. So this is 100% rayon crepe. I just love this pattern. I think it's fabulous. So I'm going to use this as my test piece. And what I'm going to start with is I am going to run it on a rinse and spin in the dryer or wash machine. So I'm basically going to get it wet, damp-ish. And then I'm going to soak it in the sink here with the starch and then throw it in the dryer. So this is experiment one. We're gonna see how that goes. I have about 3 yards here of this. So to test, I'm using this random 3 yards. What my actual dress fabric is, and what started this all, I have some lovely lightweight rayon twill that I'm going to be making a dress out of. And this is a lot. I have 6 yards here of this. So I'm gonna be making close to a maxi length dress. out of this, and with lots of pieces. And so I need to be precise in my cutting, and I have no grain line to follow because it's a twill. That's what prompted this project, and obviously this is a lot of fabric. So I'm gonna try it with this chunk first, and we're gonna see how that goes. And then we'll go from there. And we're back. So I have the recently rinsed and spun wet rayon here. So I'm we're gonna start out with 2 cups of the Sta-Flo, and then I've got my trusty liquid measure. So one thing I didn't mention was this was actually fairly hard to find and was like, not expensive, but I think it was like $5, $6. And obviously I'm using a lot of it. I might want to experiment down the road with making my own starch again. I did play around with it a bit during lockdown because we're really doing all the homesteading craziness. I might play around with that a little bit more, but obviously for the sake of the experiment, I wanted to use exactly what the quilters use. All right, that doesn't seem like a lot. I'm gonna give it a bit of a swish here. So you can kind of feel the starch in the water. Now you could add this stuff directly to the wash machine, but my wash machine's really cheap and doesn't. Also, that is more for doing something like starch sheets, like say your grandma might have done back in the day. So starch, we want something a little bit heftier than starch sheets anyway. So that's why I'm doing it here in the sink instead. So this might not be enough here. Seems like a lot to rinse and spin the wash machine just for one piece of fabric, but it does really give it like an even dampness. So you could try and do it by hand, but you'd probably want to soak it and then wring it out really good. I'm gonna try and give it a bit of a wring. Now that I have this wrung out, I'm going to go back and throw it in the dryer. And then I have my table all set up for when it comes out, so hopefully it won't be too wrinkled. And we're gonna see how this looks. So we're back, and this is how that chunk of rayon turned out. So we do have a lot more body, as you can see, and I think this is gonna be a lot easier to sew. It has more of a grippy texture to it, and so I think this is gonna work just great. I'm really happy with it. The only thing that I didn't quite get right was, obviously I didn't get it soaked through evenly. So you can kind of tell there's like crispier patches. So if I do this again, I might let it soak a little longer and agitate it a little bit more and try and get that liquid really even through the piece of fabric. It might be better to use like more starch mix than not. It does seem like a bit of a waste of resources to use both the wash machine and dryer for just like one chunk of fabric and a whole sink full of starch. So it would probably be more efficient to do a bunch of this at once in the future. But I have heard that if you leave starch fabric laying around, it does have a tendency to attract like bugs like silverfish. So you probably don't want to lay it laying around super long. You might want to like batch your rayon. Not sure, we'll see how it goes, but I definitely think the wash machine and dryer has given me a lot more even results than my last test. And it is like more malleable, but still is seems like it'll be quite functional. So I don't know, this is all an experiment. This is not necessarily a how-to guide. So if you have more insight to starch and like starching fabrics, do let me know. I am going to do the next batch with my dress fabric, and I'm probably gonna end up using up the rest of this bottle. So do let me know if you would like to see a video on me making some starch, and we're gonna go do that and we'll be right back. Have the rest of my damp fabric here. This time, like I said, I am going to try and really make sure it's agitated. Now, since this is like double the yardage, this is 6 yards, whether that other chunk was 3 yards. So I'm going to, it seemed like I had like a little bit more than I needed from the last batch. It would be really nice to have a whole sink full though, I gotta say. That. Probably gonna do one more cup here. I only have like maybe a cup left. That'll give me 6 cups of solution. I'm just gonna give it a bit of a swirl here. So I'm gonna be a little bit more deliberate about how I put this in the sink. Maybe. Yeah, like it's soaked up all 6 cups of liquid. I don't know how you tell if this is gonna be even or not. I think it's about as saturated as it's gonna get. I think I might just throw it in the dryer as is, even though it's pretty sopping wet, and then maybe that'll help kind of distribute it a bit. It'll just take a little longer in the dryer, and hopefully that'll give me a more even result than last time, and we're gonna go from there. So I'll show you when we are back. All right, so welcome back. And here is my final result. So I am incredibly pleased with this. This has a lot of body to it. You can see kind of the folds in it. Now it does almost feel like a cotton, so I think this is gonna be really easy to work with. It does have a bit of wrinkling. I did leave it out for a bit after it came out of the dryer when it was hot to kind of reduce that as much as I could. So I might give that a go. It does still have a bit more crispiness here on these little fringy bits of the salvage, but I mean, that's really no big deal. It doesn't feel like there's any major concentration of starch anywhere. It all feels pretty good, pretty even. I am stoked. This is gonna be great to sew with, and this is gonna make this a lot easier. I am pleased. I'm gonna do this again. Like I say, I might consider how I batch my projects a little bit differently moving forward. If I am gonna need to do this on some rayons, I might do a whole bunch of rayon projects. We'll see how it goes. Obviously I will wanna iron this a little bit, but the good thing about this method of actually doing the starch, soaking the starch into the project versus something like spray starch, is that I don't have to use as hot of an iron on it. And obviously with rayon, it has a tendency to scorch or create like shine marks on it if you iron it at hot temperatures. So spray starch isn't great. Yeah, I am pleased as punch, and I think this is going to be fabulous for my upcoming project, and do stay tuned for that. It'll be coming out probably in a couple of weeks. So thank you everyone for watching this episode. I know it's a little bit different than my normal content, but I just thought I would try something out. And I know this is a bit of a shorter episode, but it seemed like a lot to include with the project. So let me know what you think, if you'd like to see more of these projects, if you'd like to see more kind of like in the kitchen projects, like some recipes, or if you would like to see me making that starch batch. I do think that's something I want to do since I'm pretty much out of starch now. So do let me know, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!